Alright, welcome back to another episode of the Chief Lego Fanatic. My name is Evan Singleton. I am your host for the day. Everything is awesome. Alright, previously we built sections 1 and 2 of the Titanic. If you want to watch the build videos for those, you can look about right here. So now we are on to section 3, which it looks like section 3 is going to have the most pieces out of the 3 sections. It's bag sets 29 through 46, so there's 17 bag sets. I know that it's going to have a working engine room to a degree, so I'm sure that's going to take a good many pieces. Let's dive in. Almost forgot one more important steps is actually flipping through the instruction booklet. So this one is actually noticeably thicker than the other 2 books. There's no inventory at the end. It just ends with the last page showing building the Titanic name tag. It does have a couple of different information on here. It shows how you can make the propeller spin on the last set, putting all 3 sets together, building the engines. That's what this part is. Looks like you do that after you build the stands. Yeah, it's very similar to how the other sections were built, although the aft end of the ship has a little bit more detail. Some more information, like random things about when it was launched, when it was commissioned, so on and so forth. This is the actual fantail of the ship, the very back end where it peaks back. Let's see, stern and the well deck is what it's actually called on here. So it means that it's actually, so this is the, what I would call the 5th mini section. This is just the last section. So you can see how much more is into the stern and the well deck than on the more center sections. It looks like the more center section goes along the lines of the way the other 3 center sections went. Or mini sections. Then towards the beginning, talks about how it's the unsinkable ocean liner. Talks about the scale. It's the longest Lego model created so far and one of the most intricate, which I can fully believe. I'm going to set it up next to my Saturn V rocket, which is probably the other longest one that I have. Maybe the world map. No. Anyways, so sections 29 through 35 is that center section, and then 36 through 44 is the more aft end of the ship, and then 46 or 45 and 46 is just putting it all together and making one giant set. So we're going to start off with the funnel and engine room. All right, here we go. So this first of the mini sections is pretty much going to be like the 2 sections of the center portion and the back section of the bow portion of the ship. It's mostly where all of the different staterooms and the funnel and whatnot were. This does also include where the engines are going to end up being. That's actually one of the very last things that you build on the back third of the ship. Again, you can notice kind of like with the forward 2 sections, there's a lot of yellow pieces and the other different colors used for interior pieces that aren't really going to be seen. So it seems like Lego trying to use a bunch of extra pieces to get rid of them. You can see that the back third of the ship, or of the set, is actually the longest of the 3, and you'll be able to tell that once the actual after end of the ship is built. But this mini section actually isn't very long. And it's very similarly to the 2 center sections. And it's almost identical. You're just building up the side of the ship, and then you build up to the deck edge, or the deck, and then you build up the top of the deck. So you see building kind of the colonnade that runs along the side of the ship. There's pretty, if you ever watched the movie Titanic, you can see people walking through there when it actually gets hit by the iceberg. See my daughters going in and out of the garage. They like to come play in there. Alright, so that's the base is done. This is me building the smokestack. It's identical to the other 4. I'm not sure if this is the one that actually functioned. That was an interesting fact about the Titanic. Even though it had 4 funnels, only one of them was actually functional. And now that section is done. And now we move on to the actual aft end of the ship. This is actually the section that took the longest out of all 6 mini sections, because it is so long and so complicated, because it has the propellers and whatnot, and you can actually, the propellers actually move, so you have to build all the gearing and whatnot to go with them. Lot up here. This is basically just building up the structure of the aft end of the ship. Build the rudder there. The rudder was kind of annoying because it didn't really want to hold together to actually attach to the aft end of the ship, but eventually it got there. Alright, and then the aft end of the ship kind of gets the same treatment that the forward end of the ship did. You actually build the sides and then you attach the sides rather than kind of building it up from the bottom. So I just finished the port side, now I'm finishing the starboard side. Yep, there's me putting on the starboard side. And then once that's done, you start moving into the deck. The aft end of the ship does have a lot more stuff on it than the forward or the middle end of the section. The forward end of the ship does have, I think it was 1 crane in the forward end. The aft end actually has 3 cranes, and you'll see me build those once we actually get to that portion of the. Once we get to that portion of the deck. This is the after end of the little colonnade section. You can kind of see where the colonnade ends, where the upper deck ends, and then it goes down to the actual fantail of the ship itself. Yep, now we're building all the little stuff on the back end of the ship. There is like a small raised portion in the back of the ship. There's actually a neat little gearing mechanism that you use to tighten the string that runs along the above the ship. So that was a neat little part that they added. This is the railing. It's actually one really long piece that you end up attaching on there, and then you have one of the tube things. You can see the extra set of hands that I gained there. My youngest daughter Zoe decided to come give me a hand. Yeah, putting these 2 sections, the 2 mini sections together, was super awkward. You just had to pick it up and hold it. Yeah, so once you do that, you build a couple of smaller pieces that kind of hold the 2 mini sections together. Yep, you can see build the aft mast there with the different strings going to it. Building up all the different sections. Right now I'm building the stands. You can see how much of the aft end of the ship sticks past the second stand. Now I'm actually starting work on the engines themselves. It's one of the last pieces. Between the engines and then the little plaque that says Titanic are the last 2 sections. So the engine is kind of a pain in the butt to build, just because it actually has very specific ways, because it has the actual pistons, So you have to put them in very specific ways in order for it to actually function. And there we go. And we put it all together. All right, here we have the fully completed, all 3 sections put together. You can notice that it actually does have the string that goes all the way across. One of the neat things about the 3rd section, which definitely took the longest, took me about 5 hours. So somewhere between 13 and 15 hours to complete the whole set. It does have a little gear back here in the back that you use to tighten and loosen the string for when you actually want to disassemble it. Or if you want to be me, you can just disconnect it in the middle somewhere. Like the first 2 sections, it does have this pin that's kind of disguised, which is neat. Well, it's a pin if the whole thing comes out. The connection between the 2nd and 3rd sections are pretty tight, but yeah, so you have this little pin. I'll move this over so it's a little easier to see, because it's way back here in the back. Actually move around the table so I can definitely get it close enough to actually be able to see. All right, so here you have the interior of the 3rd section. Yeah, sitting here knocking over the little Titanic nameplate. So you have the interior of the 3rd section. You see you do have the 2 engines here. Turning it, you can see the props turn, which is really neat. Again, with like the other 2 sections, you can see the interior of the passageways and whatnot on this side. It just has these little plates here. That's what that pin slides down through to actually close off. 1 smokestack. The propellers in the back. The hull is nicely shaped for like a early 1900s era ship. Yeah, so that's the end of this set. Next video will be me actually reviewing the whole thing. I'll go into details of all the different sections and all the different things you get to see. I'll see you guys next time.